Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. I know I've been gone for a very long time. I went through a pregnancy and I just had a baby about 3 months ago, so that is why I have been MIA. And I also just wanted to take a break and just really focus on my family before my second baby came. But I'm just gonna jump straight into this video, and today I'm gonna be talking about what it means to be obedient to God. Now, first of all, the definition of obedience is compliance with an order, request, or law, or submission to another authority. And if you see me looking down, it's because I have some notes here to keep me on track. So there's 4 things that go hand in hand with obedience. And the first one that I believe is obedience equals faith. So if your faith is weak, then so will be your obedience to God. Faith means confidence, basically, is what faith means. And if you have confidence in God, then you're going to want to obey him. You're going to want to do what he says. You're going to trust him. But if you don't have faith in him, and if your faith is weak, then so will be your obedience. Number 2, I believe that obedience equals sacrifice. And if you've been a Christian for a really long time, or if you're even new to being a Christian, I think we can all agree that God asks us to sacrifice a lot of things, whether that be a bad relationship, giving up certain desires that are not good and that are sinful, giving up certain family members maybe that just, it's just not a healthy environment for us to be in. It could also be, that he's asking us to stop having sex. He's asking us to get into recovery if we're addicted to drugs. If you're a smoker, he wants you to stop smoking. He asks a lot of different things for us to sacrifice. And it could also be a job. He could be asking us to sacrifice a certain job that we think is what we need. When in reality, he's telling us to quit or to move across country. I mean, there's so many different things that God asks us to do with obedience. So without being willing to sacrifice our wants, desires, feelings, motives, and all that we think that we need, we won't be able to truly experience all God has for us and that he wants us to experience and learn. And especially it stunts our spiritual growth. So when God tells you to do something and you don't do it, he's asking you to do something, not because he wants to make your life miserable or he wants you to be like this really boring person or give up certain things in life. He's asking you to do it because it's going to be something that is good for your soul, that is good for your growth and your following him as a Christian. So he's going to ask you to do things and be obedient in things that might not make sense to you. And that's really hard. And that's where, you go back to number 1, and that's where your faith comes into play, because, faith equals obedience, and obedience really equals sacrifice. You being obedient to God means you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things. So the third thing I believe is that obedience equals trust. And your trust in Jesus must be strong and unbreakable. If you don't trust him, you won't obey him wholeheartedly. And what I mean by that is, I'll just give an example. If you meet someone for the first time, you're not going to trust them with your whole life story. You're not going to trust them with your deep, dark secrets. You're not going to trust them to watch your kid. I mean, you're not going to trust them with anything. And I feel like a lot of people are like that with God, that they claim to be Christians, but they know nothing about him. They don't read the Bible. And so therefore, their trust in him, that's why they don't want to fully surrender. That's why they don't want to, pray to him. That's why they feel like they're a little blocked off, because they don't fully trust him. And in order to trust him, you're going to have to be obedient, and you're going to have to, sacrifice things. And you're going to have to really get to know him and his character and who he is. And you're going to have to read the Bible. If you don't read the Bible, then you're not fully understanding Christianity in whole. Because in the Bible, it talks about God's character, who he is, why he does certain things. there's not every single answer you can ever find in the Bible, but the majority of basic principles and basic things and the way that he wants you to live, you can find that in the Word. And so just think about that, Think about if you truly trust God, and if you don't, is it because you haven't made the time to get to know him? You're not going to just talk to this person that you just met yesterday and act like you know them because you just met them yesterday. And that's kind of how it is with God too. You can't act like you know him and trust him if you don't actually know and trust him. So then the fourth thing, I believe that obedience equals consequences. And consequences, there's negative and positive consequences for, every action there's a reaction. And so with that, every action is basically biblical. It's biblically speaking, it's reaping and sowing. So every single action or decision that you make, you're reaping and sowing into that. So if you decide to move in with your boyfriend that you've been dating for some time, and you're trying to follow God and not have sex till you're married, well, moving in with this person, you're not going to be able to set up good boundaries, and therefore you're going to reap and sow. You're going to end up having sex because you don't have good boundaries set up. You don't have anybody to really keep you accountable for this relationship, and you're basically already acting as you're married. So there's really no godly design in moving in with your boyfriend before you get married, because you're just going to tempt yourself with doing the things that God doesn't want you to do. But for instance, for my life, I had to be obedient, and I had to go into a recovery program because I was addicted to drugs, and in that came positive consequences where now I have almost 7 years sober, and my life is completely changed. I have good relationships. I have a relationship with God that is deep and meaningful, and I have 2 beautiful children. I have a wonderful husband. Those are positive consequences of coming to Christ and coming to listen to him. So I just wanted to think of someone who represents the best, who represents obedience perfectly, and that person is Jesus. So Jesus' role in the Trinity is complete obedience to the Father, and he obeys him 100%. Every request, every action, he is completely submissive to God the Father. He even willingly dies on the cross and becomes obedient to death. And I just really want us to really take that in, because I don't think a lot of people truly understand what it means when Jesus died on the cross. And the only thing I can think of to kind of compare it to is, I want you to think of someone that you really think does not deserve anything good. They're just a horrible person, they're mean, they maybe, murdered people, kidnapped people, they're just a horrible person, right? And I want to ask you, would you go and die for that person willingly just because you think it's what's right? They don't deserve it, but you're going to die for them. And if you're honest with yourself, you would say no. Of course you wouldn't die for that person because you don't think they deserve it. But that's how God feels about us. He doesn't think that we deserve it either, but he dies for us because he loves us. And he gave his life so that we could have freedom. And to me, that's just amazing, and I feel like everyone should really truly understand exactly what that means and how Jesus was completely obedient to the Father. Everything Jesus did was what the Father wanted him to do. And Jesus had a great representation to us of how we should be with God. I mean, he did everything that the Father wanted him to do. He prayed to the Father. He wouldn't do anything without speaking to the Father. He would go off onto the mountain and pray to the Father so that he could have some time to be with him and to communicate with him. And that's how he wants us to be as well. So I'm going to put scriptures at the end of scriptures that I believe are, that really speak to all of this. So I'm going to put that on the screen after all of this. But at the end of the day, God created us to worship. And we either worship God or we worship idols. And as I was preparing for this session, this topic, this discussion, God wants, He wants us to be fully aware that He created us to follow Him. He created us to worship Him, right? And, these idols get in the way of our obedience to Him. And some of the idols that I want to talk about, I'm just going to name them off, and I want you to think about some of these idols that are getting in the way of your worship to God. So, idols are what you worship in God's rightful place, and these are some of them to keep in mind. Sex, men, love, children, vanity, beauty, health, fitness, ego, pride, anger, your ambition, reputation, other gods, addictions, work, status, family, social justice, politics, fame, money, popularity, power, and education. And these are the things that literally stunt our obedience. They keep us from truly experiencing God the way that He intended us to, because we're worshiping false things. We put our hope and our faith and our trust, and we sacrifice things for these idols, and we always end up coming out with the short end of the stick, because these are not the things that are intended to give us joy. These are the things that God created for us to enjoy, but it's just not what God wants for your life. If you're putting these things before God, He will completely destroy your idols. And one of the main things that I think people idol are their children. Me too. I think that my kids are the most amazing, important thing in my life. But God even wants to be before your kids. He wants to be before your husband. He wants to be before every single thing in your life. So really pray about, what are the things that are keeping me from God and from being obedient to Him. Because at the end of the day, we all have things that keep us from worshiping God the way that we're supposed to. So my final question for you would be, are you playing the role of God in your life? Are you afraid to give up your ideas and plans for what you think your life should be because you think that God won't give you what you want? Could it be that what you want will only bring pain and discomfort, and what God wants to bring you will bring you freedom? So I know that sometimes we think the things that we want are what's good for us, but in the end, if we really pray about it and ask God, we'll come to realize that it's just an idol. It's just something that's getting in the way, and we really need to pray about that and let God take that away and help us to make better choices and bring better things into our life and to reap and sow good things. So I hope this video was helpful to anybody who's watching this. And I thank all of my subscribers that have stayed subscribed to my channel for all of your comments. I'm sorry I've been gone for so long, but I am definitely going to try to post more videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you watched it all the way through. But if not, I know it's kind of a long video, but I just really felt like I should get this out there, and I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you later. Bye.